Hello and welcome back to another Unstoppable After 50 episode. I'm Karen Cerezzo. I'm so excited that you guys are here because this is going to be a fantastic conversation today. It's definitely something I know I have dealt with personally, and so I'm excited to dive into this. So if we have not met, my name is Karen Cerezzo. I am a health and wellness coach for women over 45, really. And I help them navigate all things related to perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause through healthy lifestyle, fitness, nutrition, all the good stuff. And one of my favorite things to do is talk to other amazing women on how can we stay healthy and active as we age, and how can we get through this perimenopause, menopause journey feeling our best. So let me invite Kim to join us.
My name is Kim Flores. I'm a board certified nurse practitioner and certified nutritionist. I've been a nurse since 2009, so been in the game for a while, but food quickly became something I was very passionate about. I have a history of an eating disorder and healed from that, so I've always had a huge focus on how food can be medicine. It can either help you or harm you. And then more recently, as I get older, I have found that I have definitely taken an interest into women's health, specifically perimenopausal health, because I think it's a huge population that we aren't serving well. And we are now just coming into this new age where they're just beginning to research this dynamic group that has many needs and has been overlooked for a very long time. And so I know that's what we're going to be talking about mostly today is taking it all back to women who are in perimenopause. But I really like to focus on what we are in control of, i.e., how we're eating, how we're moving our bodies, because before we get to the doctor's office, there is a lot that is, in fact, in our control that we can help to optimize and make ourselves feel better before we even get to hormonal replacement therapy.
Right. Which is, that's where I start with a lot is let's look at your lifestyle habits first before we jump into anything else when you're struggling with whatever it is. But I will tell you, one of the things that you reminded me of is this isn't happening overnight. All of this stuff, because I have come to you and I have given you my laundry list of what I was dealing with, and finally was like, listen, I need help.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do this on my own. I feel like I'm very knowledgeable, but I don't have all the answers. And the people I was going to and seeing didn't have the answers either. But going to you, one of the things you reminded me of is the things that you're suffering from didn't happen overnight. Like, this has been continuous and you're just now listening to your body, but it's been giving you clues all along.
It's I see it like a slow dripping faucet. You don't recognize the leak when it's only a few drops of water, but then when you've got a whole tub full of water, you start to notice, hey, that there's
Yeah.
problem. Something's
Yeah.
happening.
And there was definitely things that I recognized right away where I was like, oh my God, I'm super tired, or, you know, my workouts aren't that great. Energy, brain fog, all of that. But one of the conversations we went into, and we'll get into that a little bit deeper today, is constipation and bloating. And it's something I talk about with my clients all the time, with my health coaching clients. And I didn't recognize that what I was suffering more from was chronic. And so sometimes it takes that extra person to come in and say, okay, let's really look at what's going on.
Yeah.
So starting with probably the number one thing that I know I struggle with, but that a lot of the women that come to me, that talk to me, that work out with me, is energy.
Mm-hmm.
Why does our energy tap out? And I was talking to you yesterday. We had a follow-up appointment because you are assisting me with my hormone replacement therapy and trying to get me back on track. But my energy level, I said, I feel like I'm in my first trimester of pregnancy. Like, I just am tapped out. And people that have been pregnant know that feeling. It's like, oh my God, it's like starting the laundry is exhausting. My husband's like, what'd you do all day? I'm like, I pushed the button and I had to take a nap. So what happens? Why does this just knock us out on our feet?
So specifically speaking to the ramping up of perimenopause, and 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 first I need to point out too, because if we talk about certain symptoms and there's someone watching this saying, I really didn't notice a difference in my energy levels, not nearly as bad as what she's talking about, not
Mhm.
like first trimester fatigue, because when you're going into perimenopause, all your hormones are like
Right.
this. And they're unpredictable and they change from day to day. So one day you may feel it and one day you may not, or you may not struggle with it until you're like right at the postmenopause. You've been a full year without your period. That being said, a big part of the energy suck comes from the dropping in your hormones, specifically estrogen and progesterone. And so each of themselves have specific reasons. Estrogen is a big one because estrogen is what helps play a key role in other hormones like dopamine and serotonin. And those hormones help us to feel happy. And the dopamine, obviously, the motivation hormone. And so when we're lacking that and we aren't producing as much of it as we used to, it's not even so much a decrease in energy, but like you said specifically, I'm just not motivated to do
Yeah.
anything. Thinking about having to get up off the couch and go do one load of laundry seems like this immeasurable task that you have to do because you lack that motivation to do anything. It becomes a
Yeah.
very difficult task. And so on the progesterone side of it, progesterone is actually the first hormone that usually starts to tank. And so one of the first signs that we'll see is a change in sleeping habits, whether it's difficulty falling asleep or difficulty staying asleep. And that's because progesterone starts to decrease. And progesterone is one of those hormones that crosses the blood brain barrier. It helps to bind to GABA receptors, which helps to relax us. And so when we don't have as much of it, one of the first things we can notice is those middle of the night wake ups. A lot of people like to talk about cortisol, which cortisol 100% plays a role. That's a stress hormone that definitely goes haywire during perimenopause as well. But specifically speaking to progesterone, it drops off. And so what you'll have is you may be able to go to sleep, but then you're waking up in the middle of the night, or like you get up to go pee and then you can't go back to sleep. And you're like, I don't understand. Why am I not sleeping? I'm not stressed. I'm not worried about anything. I don't feel wired. That's how you can kind of tell the difference between cortisol and progesterone. You don't feel that wired but tired. You're just like, I just lay there and I
Right.
don't fall asleep because you're lacking that influx of the hormone. And so when you pair both of those, when your estrogen and your progesterone starts to tank, not only do you get the sleep disruption, but when you're getting less quality of sleep, well, then of course it's affecting you during the day as well. And if you want to transition that even into the gut health aspect of it, in addition to that, because you got that one big thing, the hormone drops that affects your energy levels, your gut starts to slow down, your metabolism starts to slow down. I just before we started this, I saw a great post from I don't know if you follow her. Her name is Cynthia Thurlow. I think she's a nurse practitioner, and she made a post about how pre-menopause your BMR is anywhere from like 1,800 to 2,000 calories, and once you get closer to postmenopause, it's like 13 to 1,500 calories. You have this
Wow.
significant drop in your basal metabolic rate, but that also is a significant slowing down in your gut, which is why a lot of women become constipated. And they may have never been constipated their whole entire life, but now they're like, for the life of me, I can't take a poop more than every couple days. And every time I go poop, it hurts and I have to sit there and it's little pebbles. So every metabolic process in our body starts to slow down in that perimenopausal phase, which by the way can be anywhere from 10 to 15 years. I think people
Right.
forget how long this phase can last.
Well, and that's the thing is, so I've been here 6 years. I've been here 6 years going through this, and fingers crossed we're close to the end, right? But if you had asked me, I don't know, 9 months ago, a year ago, how are you feeling? I'd be like, oh my God, I feel amazing. Like, I don't understand why I still can't lose the weight. But other than that, my energy is great. My workouts are great. I feel great. I'm, like loving life. And you ask me, right now in the past probably 2, 3 months, I'm like, I am exhausted and I don't have a lot of joy, which doesn't mean that I don't have joy in my life. And it's so hard to get, because I ask women that all the time. Do you have hobbies? Are there things that you enjoy? Like, do you get excited about getting up in the morning? Let's look at that. Um, as far as like mindset and trying to figure out where is that lack of energy, is the lack of energy is just a feeling of blah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And so, it's so hard when we're going through all this because I'm like, I like my marriage, I like my kids, I love my job, I love my circle of friends, I love everything that I do for the most part every day. I get excited to wake up, but why am I feeling so
Yeah.
and so many women feel this, and they're like, I don't know, and they get lost in that shuffle of I don't know what's next. I just kind of don't have the energy to want to do things, but I know that I could be doing amazing things with all this free time that I have now that my kids are grown or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to wrap your mind
And
around.
I said something to you yesterday about this, about how the lack of energy very, very finely overlaps depression.
Yes.
And it's really
Yes.
hard because just like you said, like everything in your life is great. So it's definitely not situational
Right.
depression. Like you have no reason to be depressed. You don't have a history of depression. So it's not this chronic thing there. But then it's like, well, why do I just feel so blah? I don't feel motivated to do anything. These things don't bring me joy anymore. And then that's when you have to say, okay, this is definitely the hormonal ups and downs of life, because when they're peaking, especially like high estrogen right before your period starts, we get really emotional, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we cry at the drop of a hat. And then the flip side, going into perimenopause, it's almost the complete opposite, where we're just like numb. And I don't know about you, but like I've been through both, and I'm like, I don't know which one is worse, because this anhedonia, this lack of emotion
Yeah.
at all, just this nothingness is almost
Yes.
unbearable. Like I want to feel something. Like I want to
Agreed.
do
Yeah. I
something.
either want to be super happy. I don't care if I'm angry, whatever it is, but yes, give me a feeling. Because right now it's just this like flat line of
Yeah.
eh. And so
Yeah.
that is hard it is hard. And so that's one of the things you have to look at is, could it be mild, very mild depression, being blue? Could it be energy? Could it go back to what am I eating? Which takes us into gut health, which is another big one is, am I eating enough food? And you and I have had this conversation, and I preach this to my clients,
Uh-huh.
but sometimes I need the reminder myself, are we eating enough to fuel the lifestyle that we want to be having? Which means that we're active and we're enjoying and we're outside and we're with the dogs and we're, taking our walks, we're getting in our workouts. So how does all that tie in? Because gut health is a big one with perimenopause that a lot of people don't put the connection together.
So there are two categories of women that I need to speak to. And I see both categories of women all the time.
Yeah.
The first woman is the woman who has not taken care of herself her whole entire life. She is morbidly obese. She does not cook food at home. She lives based off of convenience. She lets her work dictate her life. Nutrition specifically is at the very, very bottom of her priority list. And these are actually great ones because it's really easy to kind of flip the switch on their gut health. Stop eating out, stop eating processed foods. I want you to eat a vegetable. When's the last time you ate a vegetable? And I want you to start cooking food at home. Each meal needs to be paired with some form of protein.
Mm-hmm.
These are really simple habits to start that will significantly boost the metabolism. They'll start getting nutrients they needed, because this morbidly obese woman is also often very nutrient depleted because she's eating these high calorie foods, but they're not nutrient dense. They're over processed, they're fried, they're on the go, things like that. So those types of women are actually great clients to have because they'll see quick and easy results as long as they actually make the changes. But then you have the women like yourself,
Mm-hmm.
the health coach, who is seemingly doing all the right things. You take care of your body, you exercise every single day, you're eating a balanced diet, but the weight has just not only budged still, but you're gaining
Yeah.
weight. And you're like, why am I gaining weight? I literally have not increased my calories. I haven't changed my routine. And 10 years ago, this woman would have been gaslit. But now we know, as your estrogen starts to dip, estrogen is such a powerful metabolic booster. It's a visceral fat shredder. That's why when our estrogen levels start to drop, we get the same quote. I can quote it because every woman says the same thing. I feel like I gained 10 pounds overnight and it's all in my stomach.
Yes.
That's what
Yeah.
every woman says. And that is immediate red flag. Okay, your estrogen levels are starting to drop. You're probably going into perimenopause
Mm-hmm.
if you're not already there. And so for women like you, there's a lot that we can fine tune. So Are you okay if I talk a little bit about what I gave you recommendations for
Oh
yesterday
yeah,
as
yeah.
far
No, no, no.
as
I am
nutrition?
and I'm open about this whole journey because
Okay,
it is. And the more we share and the more we connect with one another and the more we can learn from each other is
absolutely.
so beneficial. So
And I'll
yes.
tell myself, because I have the same issue, if I did not measure the protein that I put in every meal, I would 100% of the time undershoot. And so, one of the main things that I focused on for you yesterday was you can say you had around 4 ounces, but I'm like, yeah, but did you measure it? How
Right.
can you say for sure how much protein you're intaking if you're not exactly tracking it? Do we need to be tracking every single calorie we eat until we're 90 years old? Absolutely not. But especially in this phase when you're lacking in energy, you're having all these symptoms, you're losing your hair, your workouts suck because you have the exercise fatigue, protein needs to be a priority. And so one of the things that I told you is measure it, and not 4 ounces. 6 ounces when you're doing like a meat-based protein, or a minimum of 30 grams of protein per meal. And that is minimum, because even then that's only giving you 90 grams of protein per meal. And I usually say nothing less than 100. But
Yeah.
if you're eating snacks, you're going to get some protein in your snacks. And a big part of this is as soon as you start eating adequate protein, two things happen. You have an increase in energy, and you start to maintain lean muscle mass, and you start to burn more calories. So protein is the most thermogenic macronutrient, meaning when you consume protein, your body utilizes a lot of energy to not only break it down, but to utilize it and to transport it to all these different tissues. We use protein in all the areas of our body, not just our muscle mass. And so a lot of times when I start working with a nutrition coaching client, the first thing we'll do is increase the protein. I say, increase your protein. Don't worry about fats. Don't worry about carbs. Just, I want you to focus on hitting 100 grams of protein every single day. They'll lose weight. They'll lose a couple pounds that very first week, even if their calorie intake didn't change.
Right.
Because basically they boosted their metabolism simply by eating more protein. And women are notorious for not eating enough protein. Notorious
Well, just not eating enough in
in
general.
general.
Um,
Yeah.
because yes, I mean, we grew up with,
Slim
Cosmo
fats.
telling us we needed to be, eating less than 1,200 calories. We can't even survive off of that.
Yep.
But I mean, it's one of those things that it's the same thing I tell my clients. And then when you ask me, I was like, oh, well, yes,
Well,
yes. And it is. I say it all the time. You don't have to track forever, but if you want to know what's going on, you've got to pay attention, which means you've got to have the numbers. We
absolutely.
track our stocks and our bonds, and we track our bank account, and we track gas mileage or
We
whatever it
track
is,
our
things that we want to
steps.
know. Right, we track our steps. If we want to see any kind of progress or change, whether with our own health or something that we're working towards, we track it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as much as it sometimes is
It is.
annoying, it is so important. And
Yeah.
the other thing we were talking about yesterday, and again, I am, just as guilty. I told you, I do all the things. I walk, I wear the weighted vest, I joined Pilates, I do strength training, I try to eat, as healthy as can be. But we don't necessarily realize that the nutrients we're getting, that even though we're swapping out that juicy, amazing hamburger for a chicken salad, or chicken breast on a salad, we're not necessarily getting the nutrients that we think that we are, just because the quality of food is not what it was years ago. So when that's happening, what are the kind of things that we should look for, or what can we do to kind of boost that?
So there's also one additional layer that I want to add to that as well, because not a lot of people think about this. As we age, all of the cells in our body age, including all of our organ systems. And one of the biggest organ systems we have is our gastrointestinal tract. So um, from our mouth to our anus, we have, you know, tens upon 20 plus feet of intestinal tract that are lined with specific bacteria and have specific digestive enzymes that are helping to break down the food and transport the food and shift it from gastrointestinal tract into bloodstream so that we can use all the vitamins and minerals and all these such nutrients to nourish our bodies. And as we age, just like everything else that's declining, our gastric enzymes can be depleted, our pancreatic function can start to decline, our liver isn't filtering out as well as it used to. A lot of women who go into perimenopause, one of the things I hear a lot is, I can't tolerate alcohol anymore.
Right.
I used to be able to down a bottle of wine and be fine the next day, and now I drink one glass and I've got a headache for 3 days. And it's
Yes.
just that's a huge sign to you that your liver is not filtering things out like it used to. So basically it holds on to that toxin load for a lot longer. And then going into the absorption and the nutrient density side of things, a lot of women don't produce enough digestive enzymes. And sometimes those symptoms can present as bloating, feeling of fullness very early on in the meal, belching, reflux. And if you go to the doctor and tell them these symptoms, they'll be like, oh, you have gastritis, you just have reflux. Here, take omeprazole, take a PPI, and make the gastric acid go down. A lot of times that's not what it is. It's just that you don't have the proper enzymes, or you don't even have enough gastric acid. You have low stomach acid. Low stomach acid and high stomach acid, they look and act the same. There's really no way to tell the difference. I think there's a test that you can do, like you drink a tablespoon of baking soda or something like that. I've never done that. Sounds
It
disgusting.
does.
There's yeah. And there's also a pH test that they stick it down your throat and they make you wear it and they tape it in place and then you get the pH here. You can just trial hydrochloric acid, which I would not do unless you're under the medical supervision, because if you do have high stomach acid and you take more acid, you're just going to give yourself an ulcer,
Oh gosh.
which you'll know right away because you'll have really bad stomach aches. But I went through a season where I trialed it because I'm like, I know this is not like I don't have gastritis. I know it's not gastritis. So I went through a very long season of taking digestive enzymes and a hydrochloric acid, and it fixed my constipation. It fixed my bloating. I didn't have any food intolerances. That's another way you can tell.
Yeah.
I was breaking down my foods. I was breaking down my fats. I was breaking down my carbs. And this is a side that not a lot of doctors are familiar with. The only reason I really kind of even went down the rabbit hole of it was because I used to work in GI. And so I was seeing this in other populations, but then I started seeing a lot of these perimenopausal women with all these gastric symptoms. And I'm like, there's got to be something else
Right.
going on. And it makes sense. Our cells age, our organs age, they slow down. Just things don't get absorbed like they used to. In addition to the conversation we had about just the food in America's crap.
It is,
So
yes.
bad.
And I don't think a lot of people understand that. I think if you're just the average person that goes to the grocery store, you're thinking, I see these beautiful fruits and vegetables and it looks fantastic. When we do a little bit more research, and it's usually because that's what our job has us doing, not necessarily because we're looking for it. Not everybody's going to go out and do that
Yeah.
research. We learned that we don't have the same soil that we used to have. I know that you was it an article that you read or a post that you saw
It was a
about
post with the
a
underwear.
post? Yes, that was
Can I
hilarious.
can I
I mean, it's
tell can I say
terrible.
it? Can I say
Yes,
it really quick?
please.
Okay. So I saw this great post, no idea who it was from, but it was visual. It was the two pictures of underwear, so it got my attention. So this farmer, he did an experiment with two pairs of 100% cotton underwear. So 100% cotton means it's biodegradable. It comes from the earth, it goes back to the earth. He planted one pair of underwear on his regenerative farming soil. So very healthy, deep, rich soil that has cow manure and compost and organisms, healthy soil, buried it in the dirt. Then he takes his other pair of 100% cotton underwear and buries it on a typical American farm where they don't get crop breaks. They don't rotate crops. They definitely don't rotate the animals and the crops. They just overuse the soil. He drops it in the dirt. I think it was a week. It was a week or two. It wasn't that long. He comes back and he pulls both pairs of underwear out. On his regenerative farm with the healthy soil, all he had left was the elastic band. All the cotton was just completely disintegrated. The soil had broken it down, which is what it's supposed to do. That is its job. He goes to the other farm, pulls the other pair of underwear out, and it's completely intact. Like the underwear just has dirt on it, but it's not broken down at all. And
Yeah.
that right there perfectly explains in a nutshell how depleted our soil is. It's not nourishing us anymore. And that's a big part of why everyone's vitamin D deficient. So we get the
Right.
vitamin D from the sun, but we also get a large part of vitamin D from the soil, and we're not eating soil rich foods anymore because our farms are all over farmed and depleted. And it's kind of a depressing topic to talk about because, if we're going to talk about it, then we need to talk about the solutions. There aren't a lot of answers. You
Right.
can't just leave the food because the food is bad. You can shop local, and you can go to farmers markets, and you can get grass-fed, pasture-raised meats and eggs. That helps significantly. But let's call it for what it is. It's expensive, and not everyone can
Yeah.
afford that. So then
Yeah.
you're left with no other option than to buy from the grocery store. And what I always say is this: always look for better option, not best. It's not about perfection. So if you are coming from, a lifestyle of eating fast food multiple times per week, you can't remember the last time you had a fruit or a vegetable, just go to the grocery store. Don't worry about all these things. But for people like you and I, who we already are health focused, and we're like, oh, what's that next step where like I can help nourish my own body besides taking a bazillion supplements? Well, then that would be shop local, build your own farm
Mm-hmm.
if you have the time for it. Learn an incredible skill to have. You never know when the end of the world's going to happen and we're going to
Right.
be in
Right.
coma or food. You never know. um, Buy from local markets that are small farms. There are regenerative farms in Austin, and obviously, anything that comes from a regenerative farm is going to be more expensive because it's all organic
Yeah.
and it's harder to maintain. But you get what you
Yeah.
pay for. That's one of those things, you definitely get what you pay for.
Well, and sometimes, you know what? It's not the milkshakes that bring the boys to the yard. It could be our juicy tomatoes that we grew
Yes.
ourselves.
I have tomatoes right now, and the flood just ruined it. They're all like
Oh,
broken
oh
open and
no.
overwatered. I'm so upset.
Oh, I hate that. I know you're like, I'm trying my best. So,
Yes.
there are some supplements. I know we've
Yeah.
talked about taking like a vitamin D. Would you suggest taking a digestive enzyme for women that are struggling with having that,
Yes.
um, struggling with the getting the nutrients and having the breakdown
Mhm.
as it passes
I think
through?
it's an undervalued supplement
Yeah,
that a lot of people don't know about, and it can be a complete game changer. And here's the thing, again, unless you want to have $1 million workup, it's going to be really hard to figure out if you're producing enough digestive enzyme.
yeah,
So this is one of those experiences. Well, just buy the supplement, take them. There's one something gold, digest gold or something like that I got. You take I think it's 2 capsules before each meal, and within a couple of weeks, you should notice a significant improvement in bloating, especially
mhm,
that immediate post-meal bloating where you look like you're pregnant. That's like one of the golden signs that you're
right,
not digesting your food.
right. And a
As
lot of
long as
people
you're not on like a GLP-1 that slows digestion, which
a
obviously.
lot of people don't understand that. They just think, oh, I'm just full. And I'm like, well, there's something else going on there that, your body is not working with you the best way. So,
There's a difference between being full and being uncomfortable, like
yes.
overstretched. Like
Yeah.
why is your stomach not emptying the food out appropriately? And the nutrient absorption starts in the stomach. One of the big things that gets absorbed in our stomachs is B12. How many of us are walking around B12 deficient? Ones that aren't taking supplements, because I know a lot of people take a B12
Yeah.
supplement. And that's one of the other reasons why I get patients who come to me who have been on these heartburn medications for years, for decades. And I'm like, why? Vitamin D and B12 are two key components that are starting to be absorbed in the stomach. When you lower the stomach acid, it prevents the absorption of these nutrients. And so you're looking at women who are 60 plus years old. They're already in menopause. They've been on omeprazole for 20 plus years because the doctor just never took them off. And they've got raging osteoporosis. And then we wonder why.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of things that we can do to help ourselves. Whenever you take a medication, not so much a supplement, but whenever you're prescribed a medication, you always have to ask yourself, what's the benefit and what's the consequence? There's always some form of risk, especially with a pharmaceutical drug. You have to ask yourself, how long do I need to be on this? Does it
Hmm.
need to be forever? And what are the long-term consequences, and how can I alleviate that? So if I have someone on omeprazole, one of the first things I'm telling them is, hey, you need to supplement additional B12. You need to supplement additional vitamin D if you have to stay on this medication, because a lot of it's not getting absorbed in your
Yeah.
gut. And
Yeah.
that's digestive enzymes aside. Sorry, kind of went off on a
No,
tangent.
no,
I'm
no.
really
It's
passionate.
good though, because a lot of people, they don't recognize that. They think, but I'm doing all of the things because I'm right there too. I say I'm doing all of the things. Why am I struggling? So we talked a little bit about two of my struggles, one gut health, one energy. And then my third big struggle, which is also very common for many women in this stage, is the weight gain. And really, it's connected to the energy and the sleep and the mindset and the gut health. And so it really does spiral all in
Uh-huh.
together. But when women come to you and they're struggling with their weight, like I was, what is the first thing you sit with them and say, well, let's look at this first before we go anywhere else?
Tell me what you ate for the last 24 hours and don't lie.
Okay.
I said to everyone, I said it to you, didn't I?
Yeah. Yeah.
What have you had for the last 24 hours? And first of all, that catches them off guard usually. I could see it immediately in their eyes if they don't want to tell me, which means they already have some sort of guilt sensation around what they had in the previous 24 hours. And obviously, I'm not here to judge it. I'm here to help you. So let's get
Right.
where you're at and let's get you to where you want to be. Based on that response, I go one of two ways. If you genuinely, like you, are eating really healthy, need to eat a little bit more protein. We
Yes.
talked about it.
Yes.
But you're not eating fast food every day. You're not eating chips and cookies and cakes on the daily. So you are pretty much already optimized. And so for you, there's not a lot of room to go except for, have you ever thought about trying a GLP-1? And I don't care what anyone says about the drug. It is amazing
Yeah.
and it is working wonders in the perimenopause community. It's not for everyone. There are certain people who are not a candidate to be on it. Does it have risks? Absolutely. Does it have side effects? Absolutely. You have to weigh those out. What's the
Mm-hmm.
benefit? What's the risk? If you're in the other camp where you tell me you had Chick-fil-A for breakfast yesterday and then you stopped and you got a hot dog from 7-Eleven, and then
Oh,
for
goodness.
dinner you had a ham and cheese sandwich with chips. It's really I have to keep a straight face in my head. I'm like, how do you live like this? Of course you feel terrible, but if that's where we're starting, I say, okay, we're going to start with really small, simple changes. And depending on how bought in they are, because in this clinic setting, they're not paying me for one-on-one coaching. So I can't expect too much out of them. But if they want, I can go as far as creating that custom nutrition plan because I do have the nutrition certification and I'm allowed to do that. I'm comfortable doing that. Or I say, let's start with something really simple, like teaching you how, and I have visuals that I give them, resources in the clinic. This is what one serving of protein would look like for you. That's going to be a minimum of 30 grams of protein and or 6 ounces if you were to
Yeah.
measure it out on a scale. And we start from there. And I say, right now, all I want you to do is focus on protein. I want you to focus on cooking food at home, little things like that. And I have really close follow-ups, like at least once a month to say, okay, did you work on the habit that we discussed? How consistent are you? Obviously, again, I'm not expecting perfection, but you need to be following these things 80% of the time or more. And with you being the other type of patient, it's let's get you started on this medication because the calories and the macronutrients and the supplements got you so far,
Yeah.
and then you hit a wall. What do we do after?
100%. Right, right. Where do you go? And I'm telling you, I've been doing menopause stuff and going to menopause related events and conferences and following people. And it probably was just the past year that people have put the connection of hormone replacement therapy and GLP-1s together. It's basically like that chef's kiss. Like once you,
Uh-huh.
not that they have to be together. You don't have to do them simultaneously,
Right.
but when women have been struggling and they've been able to put these two, things together, it really has made a huge difference. And it
Mhm.
helps with the energy and it helps with the gut health and it helps with the inflammation and it helps with the
And
weight.
I just need
Um,
to add this in because depending on the type of people watching this, there's still a lot of stigma around GLP-1 medications. And what I will say is this, because there is a lot that goes into insulin resistance, a lot that we know, and there's still a lot that we don't know. Because if I check your insulin levels and they're appropriate and you're not diabetic, and let's say you already did wear a continuous glucose monitor for weeks and weeks and weeks, and your blood pressures were pretty steady, you weren't having any huge spikes or drops off, and you're still not able to lose weight. Because some people, I just feel like some people, when they hear the GLP-1 medications, are like, the sheeting. I'm like, it's doing more than putting you in a calorie deficit. It's doing way more than that, because we can tell. How
Yeah,
is it that you can, and we could do a side by side, we could keep you on the same calorie count, we added in the medication, and all of a
right.
sudden you're losing weight. How did that happen?
Well, and that wasn't, and I never, when I was, because I've been very vocal about being unsure about it, and I will say a lot of my education of GLP-1s came from Real Housewives. So, I was like, wait a minute, this doesn't seem right. I didn't necessarily think that it was cheating, because I'm sure they still work out, but they do all kinds of things. I've never referred to it as cheating. Um, but I just thought, I don't know enough about this. This hasn't been around long enough. And you're like, you realize it's been around for over 20 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
No idea.
Diabetes treatment.
Right. And I was like, oh, I'm just going off of that. I just learned about it myself. So I just figured it was new. And that is the biggest component, is a lot of people just don't have the education.
Or
And
the education they have is from social media. Fear mongering.
right. Right. And so it did take a little bit of convincing, definitely, to start something
How do you
that I
feel
was
about it
not too
now?
sure. Well, I feel great. Like I said, my energy sucks right now, but today I actually feel better. But I will tell you, this is the first time I've been able to take my ring off since last October. Like, my fingers were so just I get inflamed, like the inflammation,
Like puffy?
so puffy. Everything was so puffy. And so I do feel a difference in the inflammation in my joints, but being able to, like, to take my ring off, and a little bit of clarity when it comes to just, overall brain fog. The scale has finally budged. It's been 6 years. And so that's been a plus. But the biggest thing was just, how can I feel better? How can I feel more myself? And so,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And it really is doing the research of what is best for me
Uh-huh.
in my journey, because everybody, especially when it comes to menopause, is so
Yeah.
different. And I know one of the things that you really focus on is, let's look at alternatives. Let's look at how can we make your lifestyle the healthiest lifestyle. I mean, you wrote a book about it.
I did. I always forget to talk about it too.
What is the name? I
The name is,
know.
it's the Anti Botox Lifestyle.
That's right. Because I was personally offended. I was like, oh, anti-Botox.
I have
Wait a
so many
minute.
friends that get Botox. I was like, y'all don't be mad at me. It's not what you think.
I'm like, what about my 11s?
But the big point of the book, you read the book, yes.
I did read the book.
You read the book. It's not what you think at all.
No.
Like, the big part of it is food, what we consume, and our general lifestyle, and what we're putting in our bodies, and what we're putting on our bodies, and what we're exposing our skin to. So if you read the book, the title is more of it catches your eye. It's almost like
Right.
clickbait for books.
Right.
You're like, wait a second, it offended you. So if you're offended, you're like, wait, let me see what they have to say. Like, it's too good to be true. There's nothing that can replace Botox. You're right. But years and years of caring for your skin and caring for your internal cells, the inside of your body, what you consume on the inside, 100%,
Yeah.
100% effects on the outside. And so some of the basic concepts, it was about making a very simple, practical blueprint of things that people could do. Little things like, instead of frying your food, why don't you bake it? Or
Yeah.
instead of grilling all the time, why don't you do like a lower heat alternative and eat more vegetables and move your body so that your lymph can drain and your cells can turn over, and you can decrease the amount of dry skin on your face. There's so many things that we can do, and that plays into perimenopausal women too, because I don't think we touched much on the psychological or the emotional aspects of seeing your body change before your eyes, and you have this sense of no longer having control over your body, because you do all the same things, and yet your body, it's almost like it's betraying you. And so you know, that in itself can create this downward spiral of women starting to, you know, crave sugary foods and saying, what's the point of working out anymore if I'm just going to keep gaining weight? And so we really have to reel that back in and saying, no, the things you're doing are still working. We just have to tweak them a little bit.
Yeah.
And in the book, I talk about literally simple things like bullet pointed. It's literally bullet pointed because I want you to visually be able to look at it and then go apply it. And like, I read this one section, now I'm going to go do
I
it.
was
And for the next
going to
2 weeks, I'm going to
say,
focus on these habits.
yeah, no, it is super easy to follow. It's super easy to get tips out of it. And a lot of the food stuff I was aware of.
Yeah.
But going into like the skincare and stuff like that, I think we forget about how much laundry detergents and
Laundry
soaps and
detergent,
candles and air fresheners,
perfumes.
all of the stuff we put on our face that's going to make us feel 10 years younger.
Yeah.
All of that is affecting our hormones and affecting our journey.
Mhm.
And so it was a really good reminder. And so we can get that on Amazon, right? As an ebook.
It's not on Amazon yet, but when this is, or actually, I think I can put it in the chat right
Okay.
now.
Well, I'll put it in the link as well, but you can order the book. It's an ebook.
It's an ebook.
And it's a super quick read, but tons of great information, ways to just, like you said, just those small tweaks make a huge difference. It doesn't have to be this overhaul.
It's like 60 pages long or so.
Yeah.
It's really short.
Yeah.
Like you could read it in an afternoon.
No,
And I want that way.
It is good, and it's packed with information that is totally doable and easy to implement. So I'll make sure to share that link as well. Man, we shared a ton of information. There's so much.
We talked about a lot. What time is it? Oh, wow. We've been talking for 45 minutes.
We could talk forever, but so if you have questions for Kim, I'll link all of her, where you can find her Instagram, her website, all of that, email, ways that you can chat with her. If you are like, I'm so tired of my doctors not listening to me, gaslighting me, or I personally thought I was being taken care of, honestly. I was like, okay, she's helping me, she's paying attention to me. But then as we started to get more into it, I was like, okay, but she's not really adjusting as my body is adjusting. You know, she's still looking at Karen 6 years ago, but I've changed and my numbers have changed. And so I felt like I was being taken care of. And then as I started to kind of notice I need a little bit more, I wasn't getting it. So going to Kim at Impact Family Wellness has been a game changer for me. So thank you for that. I will share all of those links in there. Is there anything else you want to say before we close out?
Eat your protein. Come see me if you're having a hard time losing weight, you're perimenopause.
Not to me, to everybody else.
No, that's to everyone. That's to everyone. I say it to every single patient that walks into my clinic. Eat your protein.
I know. I like protein. It's not that. I try to eat it with every meal. It's not enough.
Yes,
So.
yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. Tons of great information, and you are a plethora of information. So I appreciate you doing this. And I encourage people to reach out if they have any questions, and definitely get your book because it's, like you said, easy read, easy to implement. It's perfect. So
perfect blueprint, especially before, if you don't want to come to me yet, just get my book and follow
right.
what it says.
Yeah. You got lots of answers in there already. So. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Well, have a great rest of your Tuesday.
Thank you. You too, Karen. We'll talk soon, okay?
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.